Welcome everyone to another edition of The Explainer. Today we're taking a real deep dive into the history of the greatest show on Earth. We're going to trace an incredible journey, going from a tiny, kind of chaotic gathering of nations all the way to a modern mega event that literally brings our entire planet to a standstill. If you've ever found yourself wondering exactly how this tournament became the absolute pinnacle of human competition, well, you are definitely in the right place. Okay, let's dive into this.
3 billion people. Think about that for a second. All around the world, glued to their screens, holding their breath, collectively pausing their lives for one single moment. One goal, one trophy, one champion. That staggering figure isn't just a random statistic. It represents nearly half the human population tuning in to witness the FIFA World Cup. Absolutely wild, right?
But you know, this colossal cultural event didn't just appear out of thin air overnight. It really begs a fascinating question. How exactly did a tournament that started out with just 13 teams become the most watched event in human history? Well, today we're going to unpack that incredible evolution. We'll start with how a dream took the pitch, navigate some of the early triumphs and tragedies, relive the era of absolute legends, explore the modern spectacle it's become, and finally look ahead to the world that awaits us all in 2026.
Section 1. A dream takes the pitch. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we have to travel all the way back to 1904, when FIFA was first founded, to understand the sheer scale of today's tournament. The true architect of this whole spectacle was a massive visionary named Jules Rimet, who stepped up as FIFA president in 1921. See, back then, football was just an Olympic sport, and it was strictly restricted to amateur players. But Rimet noticed something. Professional football was booming, and the absolute best players in the world were just being totally left out of international competition. He envisioned this separate, grander stage where professionals were finally welcome to step up and show the world what they were truly made of.
Well, it took nearly a decade, but in 1930, Rimet's dream became a reality down in Uruguay. Talk about humble beginnings. Just 13 teams made the trip. And get this, the European squads had to travel for weeks by ship just to get there. A player named Lucien Laurent from France scored the very first goal in World Cup history. But honestly, the most hilarious moment came during the final between fierce rivals Uruguay and Argentina. The teams literally could not agree on which ball to use. No way, right? FIFA actually had to step in, resulting in the ultimate compromise. They'd use Argentina's ball for the first half and Uruguay's for the second. Ultimately, Uruguay dominated that second half, winning 4-2 and claiming the very first World Cup.
Moving right along to Section 2, Early Triumphs and Tragedies.
So the World Cup was officially born, and man, it quickly gained prestige. Italy hosted and won in 1934, and then pulled off this remarkable back-to-back victory in 1938. But then, momentum just slammed into a brick wall. World War II halted absolutely everything. The 1942 and 1946 tournaments were canceled as the globe plunged into conflict. Football literally had to wait until the world finally began to heal, which brought us to a highly emotional return in Brazil in 1950.
And wow, that 1950 return delivered football's first true tragedy. Picture this in your mind. Nearly 200,000 roaring fans packed into the Maracanã Stadium in Brazil. I mean, that is the biggest crowd ever to watch a football match. Host nation Brazil only needed a single draw to win the tournament against Uruguay. But against all odds, Uruguay shocked them. It became known as the Maracanazo. It was an absolute miracle for Uruguay, but a completely heartbreaking disaster for Brazil that literally left an entire nation weeping.
All right, Section 3, the Era of Legends.
So, that early heartbreak eventually gave way to sheer brilliance. Moving into the 1950s and 60s, these new global superstars stepped up and elevated the game into high art. In 1958, this totally unknown 17-year-old Brazilian kid named Pelé exploded onto the scene, scoring 6 goals and winning Brazil their very first title. Fast forward to 1966, and Geoff Hurst delivered a legendary hat trick to give England their one and only World Cup victory right on home soil. But 1970, that was the absolute pinnacle. Brazil brought together Pelé, Jairzinho, Rivellino, and Tostão. They played this beautiful, flowing, unstoppable football. They were so dominant, crushing Italy 4-1 in the final, that FIFA actually allowed them to keep the original Jules Rimet trophy permanently.
Section 4. The Modern Spectacle. You see, the 70s and 80s really morphed the tournament into a true global drama, crowning new heroes from West Germany, Argentina, and Italy.
But if there is one single moment that defines the raw, nail-biting tension of 1980s football, it happened in Mexico in 1986. Quarterfinal match. Argentina versus England. Diego Maradona jumped up and infamously, blatantly, punched the ball right into the net with his hand, and the referee completely missed it. The goal stood. Maradona later cheekily dubbed it the hand of God.
And this brilliantly illustrates the complete duality of Maradona. Literally just minutes after scoring the most controversial goal in history, he picked up the ball deep in his own half and flawlessly dribbled past 5 English players to score what was later voted the goal of the century. I mean, going from a cunning cheat to an absolute artist in a matter of minutes. It completely cemented his status as a transcendent legend and ultimately led Argentina to the title.
By now, the tournament was a full-blown global phenomenon, rapidly expanding its borders and delivering iconic narratives every single step of the way. In 1994, it hit the USA, ending in the first-ever final decided by a penalty shootout, which Brazil won. In 1998, Zinedine Zidane became an absolute hero, winning for France on home soil. 2002 took the cup over to Asia, giving us the pure, emotional redemption of Brazil's Ronaldo. 2006 gave us Zidane's infamous final match headbutt, we all remember that one. And 2010 took the show to Africa, where Spain's beautiful, rhythmic, tiki-taka passing secured them their first star. These milestones basically defined an entire generation of football fans. 7-1. Just let that sink in for a second. Nothing could have prepared the world for 2014. In the semifinal, host nation Brazil was absolutely dismantled and destroyed by Germany. The Mineirazo. It was an unparalleled shock to the system. Germany would go on to win the whole thing, and 4 years later, in 2018, France would claim the throne, introducing this lightning-fast 19-year-old kid named Kylian Mbappe to the world.
Which brings us right to 2022 in Qatar. Hands down the most dramatic final in living memory. Argentina led 2-0, France clawed all the way back to 2-2, extra time pushed it to 3-3. It was a pure heavyweight bout between Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe, finally ending in penalties. In the end, after 4 previous World Cups and just endless heartbreak, Lionel Messi finally lifted the trophy. The entire football world celebrated, and for millions of fans, the greatest of all time debate was definitively closed.
Let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds. The world awaits 2026.
Now looking at this data, the contrast is just staggering. Jules Rimet's very first tournament back in 1930 featured 1 host and 13 teams. In 2026, we are jumping to 3 host nations, the USA, Canada, and Mexico, and a massive 48 nations playing 104 matches. It will quite literally be the largest, longest, and most watched World Cup in the history of human civilization. Rimet's vision hasn't just been realized, it's evolved into an absolute global titan.
So, the really crucial takeaway here is that the FIFA World Cup is so much more than just a game. It is living history. As we look ahead to 2026, the questions are endless. Will Mbappe return to lead France back to glory? Will some surprise underdog step up and shock the globe? Or will England finally end their painfully long 60-year wait? Only the pitch is going to decide. But what we know for absolutely sure is that for one magical month, a single ball will unite humanity. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next deep dive.